So guys, now that we have our basic application working, we can move to the next step, which is actually to clean up our template a little bit. And as I said in the previous video, we could use computed properties or methods. I'm going to use computed properties, and first let's see what computed properties are. So a computed property should be used over in template expression for complex logic that has the scope of changing the presentation of our data and not the data itself. If we need to change the data, then the methods should be used instead. Computed properties are also cached. Instead, methods are not. And based on their dependencies, so they are cached based on their dependencies, meaning that they will reevaluate only when their dependencies have changed. With computed properties, the result of the previously run function is returned if the dependencies have not changed. In the next example, we will use computed properties, but we could also use methods because we are not actually having a really expensive operation that the template does, so it could be fine use a method. So we don't need actually to cache the actual operation because it's not really expensive. But just to use it, we can use the computer properties, and at the end I will show you how to do the same thing, the same operation using a method. Generally speaking, so if we use computer properties when we have an expensive operation that we want to execute and cache, so that the next time we don't have to run it again unless something has changed. So let's implement the computer properties in our template and see how they work. So let me move to code mode. So we said that we could improve this bit of code and we could use computer properties. So the one thing that I want to do is actually let me open both the main.js file and the index.html file, and the main.js, let's move it on the right. So what I want to do is, of course, to simplify this bit of code that we have here. So it would be useful if we could do that, like show a text for the maximum characters. So we could say max char text. You can call this anything you like. It doesn't matter. And maybe also change this speed and say error message, probably error message. So again, you can call this to anything you like. So the goal will be to replace this, so this in template, with this one, and we do that using computer properties. So right inside our view instance, we can create a computer object, and in here we can define two functions. So we can say max char text, it's going to be a function, and it can be an anonymous function. It doesn't need any parameter, and we can write also this one, error message. So we can have two different methods in here, and it's gonna be an anonymous function again, no parameters. And so in the first one, we can simply do the same thing we did here. So we can return this one. So we can actually delete this and move it inside this computed property method. So in here, we need to make a couple of changes. First thing, this function is to return our message, so we can use the return. And since we are inside the view instance, to grab a property, we need to use the this. So this keyword, and so we grab the tweet and we check its length, and then we use again the this here for the max length, and that will do it. So let's check our application and see if it works. But before, let's also do the speed. So let's do also the other one. So let's grab this. Okay, and let's delete it. We don't need it anymore. Let's use the return. And again, here we need to use this. Otherwise, we will not be able to grab the property. And let me see if I need to use it again. Okay. So we should be able to see now the same result that we had before. So again, save, just refresh the page, just to make sure it works. So we have the original message, so 0 of 200 characters, and here we can type, and as you see, the message here updates. If we reach the limit, we see the error message correctly displayed. So that works, and our template file is much cleaner than before. We only have this really simple in template text that we generated using the computed property. So the next thing we could do is actually use a method this time, and it works in the same way. So the difference is going to be that, let's do it. So we should have these two methods inside the methods object. And anyway, we can write this method as I explained in the previous video using the ES5 syntax or the ES6 syntax, and it's gonna be the same. So let me copy these two and let me move them in here inside the methods. Remember to add the comma. Okay, and if we comment this out, we should be able to see the same result. But okay, so can refresh, and there is something not working, and the reason why this happens is because we need to call the method using the parentheses. Let's try like that. Press save, and you see the message is back on, and both do the same thing. So if we exceed the 200 characters limit, we see the error message. If we delete some of these, we get back the original message that tells us how many characters we have left to type. So that works correctly and works fine. So just remember that the first, computed properties are cached. So next time if there was an expensive operation, it will be run only once, and the next time, since it's cached, it will be used the previous result. Instead, the method is not cached. For our very basic example, it doesn't matter, honestly. Let me do one more change. I want to add some space here, so let's add some margin at the top of the container, and let's add also a phantasm icon for Twitter. just to make it a bit nicer. No, and this should be fab. Yeah, okay. That will do it for this video. In the next video, we will look into let me see. We will look into actually building a Twitter clone. So our very first project together, a simplified version of Twitter with the registration and a tweet box, which is gonna be similar but much better, so more improved than what we have now. Because so far, yeah, we can have Twitter tweets, but it doesn't really look nice. I mean, it's just a list. We will do things much nicer later. Okay. See you in the next video. Cheers.